You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Close for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Chiro Thin, Universal Tractioning Systems, Chiro Moguls, Zingit Solutions, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Evers Coaching Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiro Matchmakers, Bax Max, 5-Star Management, and the Goodman Factor. Let's hustle. Good afternoon, everybody. Jim Chester here with the Chiro Hustle live stream. Today I have Kevin Gyurina. He's coming in from New Jersey, just across the river from Philadelphia, and I am coming in from Grand Junction, which is in the Grand Valley on the western slope of Colorado, which is where I moved to get away from all the crowds over there, and I can hear the birds chirp. So welcome to the show, Dr. Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Glad to be here.
So before we get started into this episode, I just want to say thank you to Rhino Coaching, Fred and Susan Schofield, for doing such an amazing job of helping chiropractors for decades and teaching chiropractors how to be very successful. If you guys want more information, I got the ticker going now. It's the first time I've done this. So we have a little crawler on the bottom of the screen where it says rhinocoaching.com, and that thing's just going to keep on cycling around the bottom of our live feed here. So pretty cool, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the technology's changing everything, isn't it?
I saw other people doing this. I'm like, how are they doing that? I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that we're touching on today is this idea of the above atlas subluxation. And let's talk to people a little bit about what you're doing with your book, Decoding Pain, and how you're helping people with these above atlas subluxations.
Well, for me personally, this started back in 2007 when I got my first position as an associate chiropractor. I was taken to Dr. James Chestnut seminars, the wellness certification program. And of course, everything made sense on a neurological level and just groundbreaking and mind-blowing information for me. And I got into the fitness module and of course, nutrition module. But when I dived into the emotional module, that changed me forever because I saw where I was going and I didn't understand the power of our thoughts back then. And in my life at that point, I was not a healthy individual. I had type 2 diabetes. I had some bad habits that left me with some cancer in my mouth. I had weight issues, skin issues, of course, attitude issues. And what really changed that was shifting the mindset, above the atlas subluxation.
Yeah, and I know that that's a massive thing that we talk about because there's 3 components of people falling into need for care, and that's thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And a lot of times we kind of want to put people into the box and say, hey, only people that need chiropractic care are the ones that have had some type of a trauma.
Right. And there's going to be the physical combination. And I believe there's all 3 components at every level of subluxation that's present. There's going to be a physical one. Of course, there's a biochemical one, but there is definitely a thought component. And that can get stuck. I mean, I'll say it this way, that can get stuck in the body. And this is where we're seeing this research and a lot of these influence coming from outside chiropractic, though there's a whole world of chiropractic, the tonal side of things. We have like techniques like NET, BEST, even KST and other methods that are taking this into account. And essentially when someone has a thought that's related to their trauma, their body will change shape in relationship to that thought.
Yeah, and I know that we were talking off camera about this stuff. You mentioned this placebo thing and autosuggestion topic. Let's talk a little bit about the placebo concept that you were telling me about with Bruce Lipton and this autosuggestion, and then we'll jump into talking about mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely. Bruce Lipton was on the forefront of the genetic project, and there's also Herbert Benson. He's the head of the Harvard Mind-Body Institute. And for me personally, these 2 have been hugely influential in identifying how our beliefs affect our structure from at the smallest level, at the cell, and even, of course, at the DNA level. There's changes happening based on the thoughts that are occurring. And the placebo effect, it's it's like 40%, I believe. And so whether we're believing things or whether we don't believe something will influence an outcome. And these placebo effects are equal, if not better, than almost every pharmaceutical intervention for whatever similar issue.
Yeah, and I know that over time, you told me that one of the reasons that you got into chiropractic was because of head trauma.
Yeah. Of course, I played football and I played rugby at Palmer. Though I had a lot of trauma before I got into sports, falling out of trees, other just being a boy in roughhousing and whatnot like that, and even incidental accidents running around a basketball court where I fell and slipped and essentially smashed my face and lost some teeth, and of course that led to lots of surgeries and things like that. And dealing with the emotions of that, these things really weren't, I was not aware. And I think this whole movement with the concussion in the NFL has really brought a lot of light to how people are experiencing this, from post-concussion syndrome to PTS, something called CTE. These are from repetitive head traumas, head contacts even. Just contacts alone is showing that it can stress the brain to such a point that the emotions start to run out of control.
Yeah, and one of the things I found so many times is that when people have repetitive like head injury, I played soccer for 22 years. Can you imagine how many times I blasted a ball off my forehead, or I caught an elbow to my head, or we went up as high as we could get, and then we both fell down, and we just get back up and like everything's cool, and we just like play through it, and that happens like every day on the field.
Yeah, I remember it. Are you hurt or are you injured? And if you're not injured, you get back on the field. And that was the way I grew up. And it wasn't the best way, obviously.
So I know that one of our sponsor today is Fred Schofield's Rhino Coaching. Let's talk a little bit about some early memories that you have of Dr. Fred.
Well, one of my first memories of Dr. Fred really was at Palmer. I guess I must have been first or second try, and I'm a Pie House brother. And I remember being completely lost with what he was saying. I had no idea what he was trying to get to and what his analogies were related to. And that caused me to truly dive into chiropractic philosophy and just general philosophy itself. And that is, to me personally, that is the foundation of chiropractic. It's how we think. It's the structure of our beliefs and the structure of what causes us to do the science and the research, and of course the application of chiropractic.
So one of the questions I have for you: how long have you been doing this big idea called chiropractic?
I'm in my 13th year as a professional.
And over time, how have you developed your career around giving people the best that you know how to deliver?
Well, that has actually been a result of my injuries. I remember probably around the third or fourth year I was out of school, I started getting left arm numbness. Every time I did an adjustment, it just got worse and worse. So that caused me to start to look at more other techniques that were more comfortable for my body. And I started getting into a lot of the tonal methods of chiropractic. And that launched me in a whole new direction, very rewarding direction. And of course, I still do diversified and other techniques of that nature. And I incorporate all these others because I see them working together as a whole. It's more of a holistic approach, in my opinion. There's very much the structure, there's the bony connections, of course, the ligamentous and neurologic. Yet these tonal methods are connecting with other layers of how our body is involved. And as I started to blend them together, I started seeing more lasting and more fulfilling and sometimes deeper, if I could say it that way, deeper impact with people.
And I think that that's something that chiropractic sometimes gets misconstrued, that it's supposed to get somebody through an injury or save them from something. But really, we talk about these things that you said. When I first went to this James Chestnut seminar, I learned about the eating right, the thinking right, the moving right. But I think when people think about those components, sometimes they forget about the most important part of that is the adjustment. And that is the above atlas subluxation. And that is making sure that we're taking care of people. And I think that that's the fundamentals of chiropractic, is taking care of people. But if the practitioner ain't right, ain't nobody right.
That's right. I've noticed that if I'm not ready for the adjustment, it's never as good. And when I'm focused, when I'm concentrated, when I'm in that place, in that zone, we'll call it, it it's like I'm led to where to be sometimes. It's a force that guides you there. And the patients, and we've all been in those scenarios where you walk into a room and you feel good about it or you don't. And when we're in that place with our adjustments, something, I can't say it's that something is there and it guides you. It's that innate intelligence from the patient to me communicating back and forth.
And what a lot of times when people that are in personal development zones, they call this peak state.
Okay, yeah, exactly. I've heard that, and that is exactly what I'm referring to. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I think, a lot of times we have these big ideas like, and like the
Mhm.
world knows about chiropractic, but communicating that and making it more fundamental, I think is one of the most important things. And I know that you're a part of the bigger group of the inner circle that we're both a part of, which is the mastermind. And I kind of wanted to touch on, are you the master of the mastermind as a topic? Because a lot of the times, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a new room.
That's
And
exactly right.
I think that that's where the education resource for chiropractors become, though, is you kind of put yourself onto an island and you put yourself into like a system where you only go and mastermind with people every once in a while, maybe a weekend, a quarter, and you get around your like-minded tribe. Let's talk a little bit about what it's been like for you to join into this mastermind and how you can actually subordinate to other people's leaderships.
Well, it has been in many ways super rewarding. I was attempting a project outside of the physical office, and that was building an online system. And I got stuck. I got stuck a few years ago, and kind of just, that's like a year's worth of time. I don't want to say wasted, but there was a big pause there. And then connecting with Inner Circle really helped me put a ton of pieces together, gave me a whole group to bounce ideas off of and really be just open and vulnerable with where I was so I could get to that next place. And I can see the growth just in a short time of where I was stuck. And now I'm exponentially beyond that point. This is because of Inner Circle.
Yeah, and I know that you had to get vulnerable and you had to take that first step. And I know a lot of times when people have like this, what we call the soul genius, and in our program, we go through something called the genius flow. And we have these things called decade in a day, and we actually become accountable for each other. And I think that that's one of the most powerful things about what we get a chance to do is now it's like going to school. Like you said, you took a year off. Okay. So it's almost like saying that you took that year off to get into the right group, and you wanted to make sure that you chose wisely. And I think that that's one of the things that you're getting a chance now to reward from. But we all start like this entrepreneur like mastermind group that teaches us how to become digital creators and how to build a network and how to start doing podcasting and making sure that we're positioning the right way, picking our audience the right way, picking our messaging, our branding, our logos, like consciously developing something that we can like support ourselves with and to educate people with. And I think that that's one of the coolest things that I've learned is we all start right now, but we're all going to graduate as these supernova creators that are all leading a way, that have all started from one like group that are now having this massive influence.
That's exactly right. And my experience has been when I'm physically when we're there, even when we're all online watching a video together or commenting back and forth on something, it's like new levels of inspiration can come through, new levels of ideas, new levels of solutions are coming in. And it's things I read about with Napoleon Hill's work about the mastermind. It's and if I could speak biblically, when two gather in my name, Spirit is there. And so there's this inspiration happening. There's breakthroughs happening, and this is occurring every day as I connect with the group. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, I've actually been super lucky to be able to contribute to the group and to see what all of our abilities do bring together. I call us the Avengers. Like we all have some superpower. We come together. We mastermind in this place off the island in Canada, and we talk about how we're all working on what's unique in our wheelhouse, and then we all input with each other. We all get to know each other. and then we build a bond. And then
Yeah.
I think that that's the one thing about taking the opportunity and taking the gosh, the what does Ed always call it when we're the accountability?
Hmm.
We take the accountability differently when we invest in when we invest in each other.
That's right. That's right. The accountability for me, that's been a challenge. I'm sure it's a challenge for many people, doing what you're going to do, what you say, and say what you do. And this has really helped me do that. And part of the beauty of being an inner circle is seeing where we're going as a group. And I'm excited. Like you said, the Avengers, really see a transformation for our entire society, our entire country, if not the planet, with what is happening in this group and hearing everyone's what they're creating. I am so inspired to continue to create mine because I'm seeing how it's all filling in together. Everyone's got a piece, and it's just a beautiful amalgamation of knowledge and ideas and support and give and take. It's one of the more rewarding groups I've ever been connected with.
And one word pops into my head, and it's we're entering the golden age
Mm,
of chiropractic influence, and we actually are in a renaissance state. And
mm,
I think that that's really cool as we get to redefine where we are right now culturally in this profession. And I think that this group is going to be a major contributor to how people fight for the rights, fight for the children to stay getting adjusted, fight for the languaging to stay put the way it is.
yes.
Um, separating the false reality from the truth, and creating real leaders in the profession as well, not just on this like soul journey to say I'm going to teach people about this one thing. Like,
Mm,
we're actually building a unified front, which is a stronger team, that when we start cycling these thoughts together, man, it's incredible to see how we can actually join arms together and lead together. I think I was telling you about this on our hike at Vancouver, that are in Victoria, that if you take one draft horse and give them the ability to pull, they can pull 7 tons. But if you put two draft horses together and you get them to pull, they can pull 28 tons. So now they're pulling a whole weight for one more horse that wasn't there. But now, because they're contributing together and giving contribution, now they can move this whole pack together stronger. And I really think that that's what we're doing with Dr. Ed in this group.
I agree. Power in numbers, and it is. It's the experience I'm having is just transformative. So I'm so grateful to be a part of it, and the passion that we all bring just helps each other be even more on fire.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to next, but before we get there, I just want anybody that's watching this and you're finding value in it, hashtag value. If you are watching this on replay, hashtag replay, so we know you watched it after it was done. And if you guys are interested in checking out Rhino Coaching, go up there and learn from the master Fred Schofield and his wife
Yeah.
Susan. They definitely have high level contribution for everything that we're talking about. But I know that starting is sometimes a little challenging with a creative endeavor like this. By the way, if you guys are out there watching, share this. Please just hit the share button quickly so other people can hear what Dr. Kevin's about to say. When you start up, though, even though that you're this 1%er of the population and expected to take care of the 99% of the population, what have been some like hurdles for you to be able to get to the point where you're actually hosting your own interviews, and how's that going for you?
Well, there of course is the technology barrier, and where I feel one of my strong suits is I'm just persistent. I just keep trying until I get it right. And sometimes it doesn't look great, sometimes it's not great, sometimes it definitely could be a lot better. Yet every step there's a level of confidence that rises. And so each challenge, each little, people will call it a failure. Those failures lead to success. You can't get to success without a failure. So expect that. And these are some of the things I learned with Dr. Fred. Expect those things and then rise above it, and just keep seeing what is good. Keep looking at what is good. And this is the mental subluxation issue we're talking about. Knowing that there's going to be a challenge and expecting that, and then when it comes, you're like, okay, this is what I need to clean up. It's simply a piece of, at least in the inner circle, asking someone else in the group, and it's like all these comments come in with answers and multiple different kinds of answers. So that's a beautiful benefit there. And even with all these other doctors, I can see where we're all having our mental subluxations, but someone in the group has mastered it, and that's the beauty of sharing it. And so that has been a key for me, is knowing that there is a failure, and that's okay, because it's just helped me get better, better, and better, and better.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Close for Chiro, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Imaging Services, Chiro Thin, Universal Tractioning Systems, Chiro Moguls, Zingit Solutions, Dr. Peter Goldman's Zone School of Healing, Evers Coaching Systems, Rhino Coaching, Chiro Matchmakers, Bax Max, 5-Star Management, and the Goodman Factor. Let's hustle. You know, and one of the things I want to commend you for is actually setting it up, doing the work. And I think that that's one of the scariest things for most people that want to do it, is they have like the ideas and they have the system because they paid for it. They have the strategies because they've watched the trainings, but actually doing the work. I think that that's something that I've heard Dr. Ed say a lot is doing the work is like 9/10 of it. And I think that that's something that you've learned too. Let's just talk about the maybe the scared moments or the failure ideas that you might have had about doing interviews and asking the right things to people.
Well, asking the right things, there's this whole, when you're doing an interview, like you're experiencing, Jim, you got to text things and you got to check all the connections and make sure everything's linked correctly. And there's been some mess ups in my experience, and though each little moment helps me build towards that. And so with the actual interview, well, there's a lot of nervousness. I'm not going to get you wrong. And then sometimes I caught myself focusing on technology, not listening to the conversation, and then that next question isn't really a great smooth transition, so it's not as wonderful as an interview. But now I've had a number under my belt. It's just so much more conversational, so much more of a flow. There's so much more relaxation, and that's ultimately, I believe, where everyone will get to.
Well, one of my good friends, Christian, he hit me up a couple years ago, and this is after I did about 300 interviews in a year. He's like, "Damn, Jim, how did you get so good at this?" I go, "You do 300 interviews and you'll get good too."
Right. That's exactly right. Well, I remember my first live post I ever did on Facebook, and it probably took me about a month to get to do it, and just because I found an excuse or I got busy with something, and that's just how things go. And then I did that first live. It was horrible. It wasn't smooth. Yet it just gave me that little edge of confidence, a little bit of confidence. And really, was anybody watching? Is anyone going to find it, go scroll through a year's worth of posts and find that? And no. So no one's going to watch it. And if a couple people watch it, or if you have a huge following and some people watch it, they're going to love you because you did it. And they're not doing it. And there's like this awe. There's like this, Jim, when I first saw you on there, I was just in awe of what you got in the background and the microphone setup and how smooth you talk. And I thought that's how you were born that way. But it took the effort, it took the work.
Yeah, and I think that, to just talk from experience, I learned that professionalism was so much more important as I got going. But there's this old saying that you don't have to get it right, but you have to get it going. And I think that that's the tripwire that most people fall over, is they don't simply get it going. And they look at it once again, a year down the line, they're like, why didn't I start?
Right, exactly.
And that's one of those things about subordination, is you have to give yourself permission to be great and to do what is your genius and follow through with it.
Yeah, exactly. And, what you said, there's subordination. For a long time, and in many ways, I still am the captain of my own ship here. And that has given me a lot of freedom, a lot of wonderful things in life. Yet there's been roadblocks with that. There's, sometimes that leaves me just floating around the sea, if I keep on that analogy. And what the beauty is of a system, it allows you to have ease, it allows you to have confidence that you're doing something accurately while you're essentially learning how to become a master in it.
And that's just it. Like, logo placement, selecting the right comments to put up here, making sure the lighting's good, making sure the audio's good, making sure that you have the right link to click onto, making sure that the right tags are in the description, making sure it gets shared with good resource to the proper groups, proper pages, and to make sure that you're highlighted, make sure that the priority for sharing is the public and not private. I mean, there's so many checklists that you have to go through on this, like going live with a one-man band or like a one-man interview.
Right.
There's a lot of checklists that you have to do. How am I going to capture the audio? Who builds out my intro? Who builds out my midway? How do I get artwork? Who is my damn audience? I mean,
Jamie, blowing my mind right now. I got a lot of work to do.
But you think about this, Dr. Kevin, and that's really why this mastermind is so valuable, and why coaching from Fred is so valuable, and why fellowship is so important, and why knowing that what we're doing is for the cause of a greater outcome. And I think that that's a lot of the reason why you wrote that book, right?
That's exactly why. There was a greater desire versus my comfort or my exposure. There's a greater desire to share this information with people, because literally I could see it, just watch them come in, and their emotions are literally holding their corrections from fully correcting. And
so my question to you, in this like really busy atmosphere that we live in with so many influential chiropractors, why you? Why did you do this? And why was this like your ability to contribute to a larger profession?
Well, in all honesty, it was a selfish reason. I needed to heal myself, and all these things that I've done in my career were ultimately about me being attracted towards something, which resulted in healing something within myself. And then, of course, thoughts, traumas, toxins, that's a third of the cause of subluxation. So how do you eliminate 33%? No, it needs to be included. And there's some simple things that I started to do in the beginning that really didn't change any of my flow when I was doing a different, more of a higher volume model. And now I just incorporate different things, and I go a little deeper with people. So I have a more of a lower volume model. Either way, it's a critical component into how people are getting well or not.
So I want to ask you a couple of fast forward question, and let's turn back the clock question. If we fast forward, where do you see the profession 20 years from now?
Wow. I see the profession as the primary care, portable primary care. There's really so many avenues in which chiropractic is influential in the human body. I see everything else as secondary to what chiropractic is doing.
Mm-hmm. And I think right now the science is catching up with the philosophy, and we're getting a lot more clarity in the picture for what people can see as possible. If you guys have questions out there and you're watching up to this point, post any questions that you have there for Dr. Kevin or I. And if you guys could just share this, hit the share button so more people can see this conversation that Dr. Kevin and I are having. And if you're finding value, hashtag value into the comments there. And if you're watching this on replay, please hashtag replay. And if you're interested in what Dr. Fred is doing with Rhino Coaching, click on the link up there. It says click here. It's pretty explanatory, because once again, I built the links the right way for people to be able to have access to our information. And that's something else we were talking about, Dr. Kevin, is there's multiple levels of influence that we're touching on. We're touching on your interest, which is your book. We're touching on a joint interest, which is our inner circle mastermind group. We're touching another interest, which is our sponsor and who supports us and allows us to keep free speech alive and well in chiropractic. So there's multiple streams of influence that we're touching on here. But one of those things is giving yourself permission. So we actually had to give ourselves permission to be able to do this together. And I know that the reason you pulled the trigger a few months ago was because I sent you an email in support vouching for Dr. Ed.
Yeah. Well, for me, the personal connection is really critical. And I got to know and trust you and what you're doing. And as soon as you sent that email out and it solved the need for something I was looking for, it was 100% go. And there was not even a question. I didn't really know Dr. Ed. I had stepped out of the country and worked overseas in 2 different places, essentially my own clinic abroad for a period of time. And coming back to the States, I really had been out of the flow, how things were transforming in this country as a whole, just and also within chiropractic. And connecting with people I trusted from before was really my foothold back into the profession within the States here. And connecting with you, fast forward 3 years, then you sent that email, and boom, I'm off and running. I'm building the vision I've created a few years ago, and also performing and doing the chiropractic practice, which I love.
And see, this is what I call stepping into your own power. But you needed to build your tribe around you to get you to that point of leadership within yourself to step into your own power. And I think that that's something huge. And I'm really proud of you for doing what you're doing and stepping out there and sharing your message with people. One of the questions I want to ask now is, we're going to turn the dial back a little bit. And what is the one of your things that you think is the most important things to happen in chiropractic in the past decade?
Some of the most important things to happen. Wow. Well, I think it's actually happening right now. It's claiming chiropractic philosophy. It's claiming subluxation. It's claiming, because I see a lot of medical commercials and things in magazines, and they're using chiropractic philosophy in describing their care, and it baffles me because I'm in chiropractic. Yet people are all completely on board with the philosophy until we put the word chiropractic there. So that, to me, we are in some of the most important times right now. As far as the last 10 years, wow, some of those years, so part of my story is the head injuries and concussions that I have. So when I say 10 years ago, James Chestnut was critical, and that's a little longer than 10 years ago, but critical for me, and I think critical for the profession, because literally he proves what we're doing using outside of chiropractic research, and that was something that helped me have certainty in everything that I do. And now I always have reference material, and of course I continue to build my library, though I have that foundation and it's rock solid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going on like a decade in the profession.
Mm-hmm.
So the past 10 years are all from being born into this profession to being a 10-year-old with what I'm seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about this from a different looking glass because I don't come into it as a practitioner, but I do come into it from somebody that's been in the trenches and worked in the front lines and, connect the dots for helping people, whether it's marketing or information technology. And I definitely think that the most important thing to happen in the past 10 years is what we're on right now, is social media. I think that we have access to a high level of communication. My interview I did earlier today with Nicole Lindsay, I said, yeah, one of the things that I do when I go do my talks is I make them into a Facebook Live. So I can talk to a bigger audience than what I would be able to approach from just talking to a room of 30 people, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. That type of impact is amazing. But I think it's time that we all step into our power and we go out there. And when we do talks to our community, when we are out there doing scheduling events, that we actually share with people and show with people what makes us so unique and genuine and awesome, and why people do come to the back of the room after we do a 10-minute talk and they sign up by 20s and they sign up by 40s and they come in because we're not afraid to share our story. And I think that that's what social media has done with podcasting, with Dr. Ed and myself, with guys like you that are just starting up and growing your truth when it comes to sharing that vocally on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I mean, to just work off of you a little bit, I think that there's a lot of things that we can discover with the brain-body connection when it comes to people being broke down and not knowing what to do for protocol. When you come to a concussion or a major massive injury, people go into triage moment and they're like, how can we stop this the fastest and who do we send them to?
Yeah, well, the moments after an initial injury are critical there, and where my personal experience has been most needing help, we'll say, is it's the long-term effects. these issues that we're seeing in post-concussion or just repeated contacts to the head is what happens 20 years and what happens 30 years after these events. And essentially, it's like a brain degenerative issue. And so what my personal care has been through chiropractic neurology, through craniosacral methodology, ABC method, and a number NET specifically, that has been tremendously impactful for me. These methods are literally unlocking the skull and the physical pressure from the brain, but also unlocking the subluxation above the atlas.
So last part of the interview for you. Let's talk a little bit about you. What do you like? What are you reading? What do you listen to? What do you watch? What are your hobbies?
Yeah, well, great. So one of my hobbies is my family. I take care of my daughter. I play with her every morning. We do a lot together, and her mom and I, we do a lot of work. She is her side job, we'll say, is she studies energy medicine, and so this has been really impactful for me personally, seeing other professions outside of chiropractic and how they're looking at the body energetics, and it's such a beautiful blend. So I'm so thankful for that experience. Though what I'm reading right now is Napoleon Hill, Laws of Success. And so this is all about the state of mind and how we think, and the actions that we do every day really truly matter. If we're not investing in, then what's coming, nothing's coming out. So we need to invest into our own mind, into our being, and that's the body, being, and everything there. That even Dr. Ed has a phenomenal program with that. And so hobbies, I kayak in the summertime, I like snowboard in the wintertime. I'm running, I'm exercising, just trying to keep the hands strong, doing pull-ups and things like that. And that's really the focus of what I'm doing. And right now I'm doing a standard process 21-day purification. And so that's just in the beginning, just the first 3 days here, and just keeping that engine as clean and refined as possible.
Brain, body, being. I think that those are really cool things that you're discussing, man. Is when you worked on self-optimization, you become a better vessel of being a better dad, and that's really BJ Palmer's big idea. Is he always said that if we create a better person, they create a better family, and what does that do? Is it creates a better block and a better neighborhood and better leadership. And I think that when we do get those self-responsibilities in check and we do them the right way, we are the most important thing that will happen to chiropractic in the next decade. And we will see a better 20 years from now from the vision that we share together. And that's really why I wanted to develop an interview technique that featured people that we could talk about this cultural conversation around chiropractic and why it's not only helping you, but it's helping the people you take care of, and why it is a solution. Everybody's looking for solutions in this world, Dr. Kevin. And I really found chiropractic to be a solution for so much concern that people don't know what to do for. So I commend you for continuously going on for 13 years and taking on good leadership and building yourself a tribe of influencers. Is there anything I didn't touch on or ask you today that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I just want to say that even if you're having struggles out there, even you're not sure where that is, there is help available. So you may not seek traditional, I'll say this, I don't want to rub anyone's feathers the wrong way, but the traditional chiropractic, very spine centered, and it's critical. There's a number of methods, and I want to give a shout out to neuroemotional technique. I had a encounter with someone a few weeks ago that helped me, and that one, it was less than 5 minutes. It has changed my life, and I feel like I've been searching since 20 years old for some of these answers that were released in those 5 minutes. And so there is a lot to offer when we address the mental subluxation.
Hey, we took that full circle above the Atlas, the master and the mastermind. And I think we had a great conversation today on the Chiro Hustle live stream. I appreciate you jumping on with us today. And I want to thank once again Fred Schofield and Susan Schofield and FJ and Paxton, the whole Schofield family, for supporting what we do with Chiro Hustle. And
what you do, baby.
Moving forward without hesitation. I'm going to do a quick roll call and thank people for being on with us today. Dina Riggins, thank you. She said she got some value. Holland Meyer says tons of value. My boy Marvin, Big Marv has been on. Dr. Zach Lujan, who played Palmer at rugby, or he played rugby at Palmer. A good friend of mine out here in the Grand Junction area. And I just love to recognize people. Matt Bresky says this is awesome stuff. We'll get you on soon, Matt. He just joined the inner circle, so the power of the mastermind continues. And the power of influence continues as well. I'm going to go ahead and close out. Is that okay, Dr. Kevin?
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on.
You guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.